ਧੰਨ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਅਰਜਨ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਗਰੀਬ ਨਵਾਜ਼ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਦਾ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਗਾਇਨ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈ। We're going to all sing a shabad by Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj from a Bani that will be familiar to many of you. The Bani is called Gunvanti in Suhi Rag. That rag of prem, that rag of love. Guru Arjan Dev Ji Sache Paatshah Ji Maharaj, they said, Jo disai Gursikhs tis niv niv lagon pae jio. When we listen to these words of Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj, Jo disai, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵੀ ਦਿਸੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ, whichever one you see, who, ਜੋ ਦਿਸੇ ਗੁਰ ਸਿੱਖੜਾ. The word Gursikhs means Guru di sikhya ਲੈਣ ਵਾਲਾ. When you see such a great Gursikh that takes on the Guru's sikhya, the Guru's teaching, ਜੋ ਦਿਸੇ ਗੁਰ ਸਿੱਖੜਾ, ਤਿਸ ਨਿਵ ਗੁਰੂ ਅਰਜਨ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਜੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਜੀ ਕਹਿਣ ਲੱਗੇ, ਜੇ ਕਿਤੇ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹਾ ਗੁਰਸਿੱਖ ਮਿਲ ਜਾਵੇ ਨਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਗੁਰੂ ਦੀ ਸਿੱਖਿਆ ਧਾਰਨ ਕਰੇ, if you meet such a Gursikh that takes on the Guru's teaching, ਜੋ ਦੀਸੇ ਗੁਰਸਿੱਖੜਾ ਤਿਸ ਨਿਵ Maharaj ji said that you lower yourself before them. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨਿਵ ਜੋ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਅੱਗੇ, ਤਿਸ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਗੋਂ ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ means Guru Arjan Dev Ji Paatshah Ji saying, the way the shabad has been scribed, Guru Arjan Dev Ji Paatshah Ji Maharaj Ji is putting themselves in the feet of a Sikh themselves. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕਿਤੇ ਮਿਲ ਜਾਵੇ ਨਾ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹਾ ਗੁਰਸਿੱਖ, Guru Arjan Dev Ji saying, ਤਿਸ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਗੋਂ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਵਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਚਰਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ. Maharaj Ji Guru Arjan Dev Ji Paatshah saying that may I attach myself to their feet. ਤਿਸ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਗੋਂ ਪਾਏ ਜੀਓ. The word ਪਾਏ means feet. From those of you that are familiar with Hindi, you would have heard that word in Hindi, पाए. So it's not pae. Add a bindi to it, and pae means feet. And Maharaj Ji is saying that then you attach yourself to their feet, those that take on the Guru's teaching. And Sangat Ji, I was speaking to a Gursikh yesterday, and she was saying, Bhai Sahib Ji, I was listening to a shabad, and my mind was filled with fear because I remembered the words of Guru Nanak Paatshah Ji. Guru Nanak Paatshah saying, a Gurmukh is that who each pore of their body is vibrating with the name of God. And she said, Bhai Sahib, mine isn't. And she said, am I then going to go to hell? And Sangat Ji, I said to that Gursikh Bibi, I said, Maharaj ne ye bhi kiya hai na, do you know that Maharaj is also said to us that jinke pande pao tina sawar si. Do you know that Guru Sahib has also said that whose vessels, these bodies and hearts are filled with love? Maharaj Ji said they are the most beautiful. Jinke pande pao tina sawar si, Sukhi kare pasao, dukh visar si. Maharaj Ji said that with the blessing, the pasao means blessing, the kirpa. With the kirpa and the blessing of love, Dukh visarsi, all their pain and their suffering is eradicated. And then the next pankti, Satguru Ji says, Sehsa mule nahe. Sehsa means at all. Mule nahe. Mule means, Maharaji says that not even a little bit of sorry. Sehsa means doubt. Mule means at all. Not even a little bit doubt do you need to have in your mind that sar par tarsi. Sar par means to be sure. Maharaji says, let me tell you, be sure of this, that love will save you. And I said, we often forget about talking about these divine qualities. We're so hard on ourselves. And let me tell you, that's one thing that Jagraj Singh's heart was filled with. Jinke chole rattade pyare. Jinade chole man rupi chole. Those whose minds, those chole, not this chola, but their mind, that were drenched. Jinke chole rattade. This word rattade means imbued. Pyare cont tinake paas, that Vaheguru is with them. And Sangat Ji, and let me tell you, experiencing that love from that Gursikh, that's why when you read these words of Guru Arjan Dev Ji, your mind wants to fall at such a Gursikh's feet. Jo dise Gursikhda, when I see such a Gursikh, this never lago, I want to attach myself to their feet. I remember I was in India in 2017, it was April. Atdi Garmi, it was so hot. I was in Ludhiana with Gyani Kulwant Singh Ji, Ludhiane wale, which is a huge inspiration to Bhai Jagraj Singh. Jagraj Singh learned so much from Gyani Kulwant Singh Ji's gathas. And I remember when I was there, and I wasn't feeling great. I was in a really bad place, mentally, and people that were around me, they couldn't understand, they were struggling. And you know when people just want to kind of wash their hands away from you. And I remember I was in the bed in the courtyard of Jawadi Taksar, of the Asthana of Baba Sucha Singh Ji, and where now Baba Amir Singh Ji is. And I was there, and Jagraj Singh phoned. And he knew I was really struggling. I didn't plan to talk about this. But as my sister sang that beautiful shabad, Jinke chole rattade pyare, like who's those chole that were imbued with love. When this Mata spoke to me yesterday and she said, am I going to go to hell if each pore of my body isn't saying Vaheguru? I said, Mata, tusi prem nu bhul gaye. I said, what about love? I said, tade andar inna pyar hai. And when he phoned me, and hadn't spoken to him for a while, been in India for about a month, and he said Fateh, and he started crying. He said, Kinda Singh, main tenu hor kuch nahi kehna. I'm not going to say anything else to you, bas main tenu inna dasna, main tenu bahut pyar karta hu. He said, all I want to tell you is that I love you. These things today have become an embarrassment to tell each other. It's easier to tell somebody that you hate them. But ek oh Gursikh siga pyareo, jo dise Gursikhda tis niv lago pahe jiyo. That you want to fall at his feet, because his heart was filled with love. Because I just want to tell you, because I can't even put it into words how much I love you. When we sing these words, Sangat ji, today also is the shaheedi dahada, the day of Bhai Taru Singh Ji's martyrdom. Aj pyaro Bhai Taru Singh di shaheedi da divas hai. It's the day of remembering Bhai Taru Singh Ji's shaheedi, and I thought, how do they relate? How can we remember Bhai Taru Singh Ji today, and how can we remember Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji today together? What was it that they had in common? What a lot of people don't know about Bhai Taru Singh, he woke up 2 o'clock every morning, 2 a.m. Bhai Taru Singh was up. A Gursikh that did immense research. Bhai Guru Iqbal Singh said, we're finding from his research that Bhai Taru Singh had so much love for Jaap Sahib. And they said that he'd read his Jaap Sahib bahut pyar nal. My beautiful brother Bhai Dharmveer Singh, who I first met back in around 2010. And let me tell you something, the power of having love for the Guru and having love for Gursikhs. I'll come back in a minute to Jagraj Singh, but let me tell you, having love for Sangat and Gursikhs. I remember me and my wife had gone to Edinburgh. It was probably about, I think it was probably 2nd or 3rd year of our wedding anniversary. And I remember, you know, you go and you end up and eating in certain places where you don't want to really be, because you're thinking, I don't feel comfortable here. I don't know if they've made it with suchamta. You know, I don't know if they've, you know, you're just not comfortable there. But before we got to Edinburgh, there was a Gursikh that said to me, let me give you the number of some Gursikhs that you can go and meet there. And I was like, I found it difficult to just randomly phone people and reach out to them. And I said, no, we'll be all right. We've got a hotel and everything. We're good. And I remember sitting there. It was about the 2nd night, and I felt so... My wife was with me, but you know when you still feel a bit like... Can I say this? I don't know. I'm going to say it. You know when you still feel a bit lonely and you think, I need some Sangat. Like, my wife is my Sangat, but you need more Sangat. I think I'm safe to put it that way, right? And I thought, could really do with some like darshan of Gursikhs and eating somewhere where we're like more comfortable and talk about the Guru. And you know when you've got that yearning for the Guru and love, all I remember is I can't remember, you guys can help me, what that road is called. Is it the Edinburgh, the Royal Mile? We was walking on the Royal Mile and I was thinking, I don't know if I want to stay another night here. Like looking around, there's not even any other Sikhs, never mind, it was just you know. Next thing I know, I saw somebody running towards us saying, Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh. I was like, whoa. And then again, Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa. It was Bhai Gulab Singh. And I thought, wow. And that's how amazing this path is. Somebody said to me yesterday, he said, I really want to meet blessed Gursikhs. I said, yearn for them. When you yearn for them, you won't even know, like, you'll be in Edinburgh on the Royal Mile and there will be Gursikhs running towards you. You gotta yearn for them. They took us to their house for Parchar. We spoke about, met Dharmveer Singh for the first time, and it happened to be the same Gursikh that this other Gursikh was gonna give me the number of, and I said no. But he found me anyway. And that's biyar. And that's love, when you yearn, when you come on this path. Sangat ji, it happened about a month ago. I've obviously got a habit of doing this. And this time I was at home. And I was like, I had my violin out and I was singing to my wife, feel a bit lonely again, you know. And I was like, I just want to talk about Guru Sahib. And I said, like, just haven't had like that deep, heartfelt conversation. And you know, nowadays, so you know, back in the days how people would just turn up at your house. Because I can remember back to those days, you know, when you got those telephones and you've got to ring and you've got to dial it like that, like you go and it goes back like that, right? So I'm full on Paratan, right? So Paratan means like quite old. And so I can remember those telephones. Anybody else here that remember those telephones? You know, when you had to dial them like that and then you wait for them to go back to do the next one. And so back in those days, people didn't phone you, they just turned up to your house and you'd get so happy or sometimes not. Right? And but nowadays, never mind phoning somebody off the cuff, you have to first message them, is it okay if I phone you? And if you do phone someone, they're like, how comes you phoned without messaging? So, obviously the chances nowadays, you know, the probability, as my son would put it, like, you know, is quite low of somebody just turning up at your house, right? Because, so never mind, I've not messaged anyone, we've not phoned anyone, and even that day as well, and I said, I really just want to talk about Guru Sahib. And I don't know, and literally about an hour later, a Gursikh couple from Leicester just knock on our door. My wife's like, did you know they were coming? I was like, I promise I didn't. Because I do that quite often. So when Gursikhs will say that we're coming and I won't tell her. And then they just turn up. And I was like, yeah, they did message me. Right, so, but this time I genuinely didn't know. Sangat Ji, my point being here, there's some of the Gursikhs here. Now put your hands up if you last week went to the Singhs camp. Who was at the Singhs camp last week? Just show of hands. All right, so there's a few of you here that was at the Singhs. You would have heard the famous words from the Kabita of Bhai Gurdas Ji. You all know it. And you could probably guess what I'm going to say. What Kabita I'm going to say. He obviously knows. This one's just on another like tip. Come on, Sangat Ji, say it with me. Charan sharan gur ek penda jaye chal Satgur kot penda penda aage hoye leta. Charan sharan. Sangat Ji, let me tell you the amazing part. Look how easy Guru Sahib's made it for us. This says you just have to take one step, not even two. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Like Guru Sahib says, you just have to, and you know how easy that step is, Guru Sahib said. You just need to think about Sangat. But how much do we? That's the question. And Sangat Ji, the more we yearn for Gursikhs, because that's what Guru Sahib Ji says. Guru Sahib Ji said to us that Guru Sikh, Sikh Guru hai. And there's a pankti where Satguru Ji Parchar Ji say to us that Gursikha andar Satguru varta hai, jo Sikha nu locha so gur khushi aave. Alright, put your hands up now if you want to please the Guru, if you want your Guru's happiness. Simple, all you have to do is you yearn for Gursikhs. Done. Guru Raam Das Ji said, you want to make the Guru happy? And they said, this is what I learned through serving Guru Amar Das Ji. Was you yearn for Gursikh Sangat. And the Guru be happy with you. Jo dise Gursikhda, tis niv niv, lagon pain jiyo. Sangat Ji, Bhai Taru Singh Ji. What was it that Bhai Taru Singh Ji had? When the Chugalkar, I don't know why they call him Kaur. I don't think it's actually Kaur as in Kaur, right? It's just Chugalkar meaning like somebody that does a lot of...
Kaur.
Huh? Is it Kaur? Oh, Jugal Kaur. There you go. His Punjabi is really good, Rajans. Thank you. Jugal Kaur.
I think so.
Oh, God. Sorry? Yeah, it is Kaur, isn't it? So, who's heard of the word Jugal Kaur? Who is a Jugal Kaur? No, I don't expect you to answer that. Right? I've definitely been one. Right? Trying to break that habit. It's just, preaching, we gotta stop doing that, bro. When you come over. Sangat ji, that Jugal Kaur is somebody that loves a good old gossip. And in the court of Zakaria Khan, there was a good old gossiper. Ratan Singh Pangu writes about him, and he said his name was Bhagat Naranjaniya. They said Bhagat Naranjaniya was sat in the court of Zakaria Khan, and Zakaria Khan is saying, I don't get it. I've done everything I can do. I've taken away their rozi, I've taken away their means of earning. These Sikhs, why aren't they dying? We can't see them in villages, in cities anymore. Where do they come from? They're still on their missions, trying to take me down. They still pop out of nowhere in the middle of the night. They do their little missions. They save these women. They save these girls. Whoever we end up kidnapping and taking away, they rock up and turn up and save them. Where do they come from? They're not allowed to trade with anyone anymore. We've made sure they're not even allowed to do ardas and say their guru's name anymore. That's what Ratan Singh Pangu wrote. Imagine those times. If they heard somebody standing and saying their guru's name, they'd be taken and tortured. Koi ardas nahi kar sakda. He said, but where do they still turn up from? And Naranjaniya said, I'll tell you. He said, you know Sukha Singh and Matab Singh that killed Masarangad. Because Matab Singh, he said, I don't know what he's made out of. He still lives in the jungles and he's always got about 30, 40 Sikhs around him. And Zakaria Khan said, you know of this. So why haven't you captured him? Because I ain't going anywhere near him. Because have you heard of their reputation? These guys are ruthless. They said, he's always got about 30, 40 Singhs around him, Matab Singh. They said, but if he lives in jungles, they're not allowed to trade. They can't go into cities. How are they surviving? How do they eat? He said, there's this Sikh in a pend in the district of Malwa, in a pend in a village called Pula. Pule pend da ek Gursikh rehanda ya. Sangat ji udo gall apani vich hi reh gayi. And Gursikhs, when they did their khoj, they said that Bhai Sahib on Chaunkada, before they would get to their next Bani of Savaiya, they'd do 5 Jaap Sahibs. Because he was so in love with that Bani. And you know, Jaap Sahib Sangat ji, we're so fortunate we've got the actual, this is Guru Gobind Singh Ji's direct Simran of God. You know, Jaap Sahib isn't Upadesh. Jaap Sahib isn't Guru Gobind Singh Ji giving their Sikhs a teaching. Jaap Sahib is Guru Gobind Singh Ji's own Niji experience of God. Is their Simran. They're sharing it with us. Well, actually, it was by Mani Singh writing it. As Guru Gobind Singh Ji in Patna Sahib sat at the edge of Jamuna and they're looking at that river flowing and they're looking into that river and saying, oh, wow. And they're saying, Jale haan, Thale haan. The ha got a dalama, and at the dalama it's got a bindi. The bindi tells us that Guru Gobind Singh Ji is speaking directly to God and not telling us. Guru Gobind Singh Ji is looking at that river flowing and saying, Jale haan, saying, Vaheguru Ji, minu tusi des rahe ho, tusi jal vich hege ha. Oh look, Vaheguru, I can see you. I know from the rest of the world and eyes, you play hide and seek. Gabul, gab hai, you're the best at that game. That's what gabul gab means. You're amazing at hide and seek. Look at the way you hide yourself from so many people and so many eyes. Gabul gab hai. They said, but not from my eyes, Guru Gobind Singh Ji said. Jale ha, look, I can see you. Thale ha, you're in the earth as well. Look, there you are. You can't escape my eyes. Apeet ha. There is no peet. Peet, Sangat Ji, can also be translated to wall. You're not hidden behind any wall. It's not that you only exist in a place like within Kaaba. It's not like that you're just behind four walls. You can't hide from me behind anything. There is no wall between me and you, Guru Gobind Singh Ji is saying. Peet means wall. A peet ha. There is no wall between me and you. I can see you everywhere. There's no wall. Ape ha, saying that, oh Vaheguru Ji, that there is no secrets between me and you. Pe comes from the word ped, from secrets, saying that sometimes you keep secrets from people but not from me. There's no secrets between me and you. That's Jaap Sahib. And Bhai Taru Singh would sit and read 5 Jaap Sahibs. And then he would get up. And Naranjaniya said, he goes to Zakaria Khan, he said, this Gursikh, he's really tall and he's a farmer, but what he does is he doesn't eat much himself because he goes and feeds the Singhs in the jungle. Because he lives for the Khalsa. Because, well, didn't Guru Gobind Singh Ji say to us that Sev kari inhi ko pavat aur ki sev suhatna ji ko Sangat Ji Khalsa Mehima Sri Dasam Granth Guru Gobind Singh Ji. Guru Gobind Singh Ji Pasingo, listen to this. And Singniyom, is that a word? Right? So, listen to this really carefully. This is in Khalsa, a Bani called Khalsa Mehima, where Guru Gobind Singh Ji is praising the Khalsa. And this is what Bhai Taru Singh lived for. And this is what Bhai Jagraj Singh lived for. What did he say in his last speech? Panth vase, main ujjana man chao, kanera, the words of Bhai Seetal Singh, Sitara. Panth vase, I want the Panth to flourish. Panth vase, main ujjana, I can be destroyed. Bhai Taru Singh lived by that. Bhai Jagraj Singh, I remember, because remember Jagraj Singh, he established a recruitment business that was doing very well. Within a few years, they'd managed to get onto really good salaries, right? They were reaching up to six-figure salaries back then, but then he started doing Parchar. And whatever he had saved from that 6-figure salary, he used up for Parchar. And then he gave himself a wage from everything's 13, just enough to pay his bills and his mortgage. I remember being at his house. They had a little sofa, and he was like, Singh, man, need to get a new sofa. I was like, amazing, do you want me to help you choose one? He's like, nah, it's just a bit hard at the moment. Because I'm not paying myself any more than just bills and the mortgage. He goes, so I can't really get one at the moment. Why? Panth vase main ujjana. Because I don't, he says, it's okay. As long as I get to serve the Khalsa Panth. We talk about why did Jagraj Singh make it to where he made it, to touch people's heart. What is love? Love is sacrifice. But he wasn't even seeing what he was sacrificing, because he was serving so effortlessly. He wasn't complaining to me. He was just telling me. He didn't say, "This is rough, man, Singh. Can't believe I can't get a new sofa." He was cool. He didn't drive no flashy cars. I'm not saying that Pracharak should be paid a minimum wage, because that's not what his aim was. Look what Guru Gobind Singh Ji is saying, "Sev kari inhi ki bhavat, aur ki sev suhatna ji ko." Guru Gobind Singh Ji said, they said, when you serve the Sikhs, when you serve the Khalsa, they said, that's what pleases me. They said, when you leave the Khalsa and they're struggling, you close your eyes to the Khalsa and they're struggling, and you start going and saving the rest of the world, and you leave them struggling. They said, don't think that's going to please me, Guru Gobind Singh Ji said. Daan deo inhi ko palo. They said, when you daan, when you give to them, they said, that's what I say, Guru Gobind Singh Ji said, is good. Ar aan ko daan na lagat niko. Niko means, kende je ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਛੱਡ ਕੇ ਤਾਂ ਦੂਸਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੇਣ ਲੱਗ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਸੋਹਣਾ ਲੱਗਣਾ, ਚੰਗਾ ਲੱਗਣਾ. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ you leave these and give outside. They said, that's not going to be nice. That's not what is going to be nice for me, Guru Gobind Singh Ji said. Why? Because this says, आगे फले इन्हीं को देओ जग में जस और देओ सब फीको. You know what that means? Guru Gobind Singh Ji saying aage phale, because when you give to the Khalsa, then you watch how that bears fruit. Why is it going to bear fruit when you give to the Khalsa? Because the Khalsa lives righteously, so what they do with that is going to be so fruitful. Aage phale, you go and start giving to everyone else and leaving the Khalsa, they might not even be righteous, and when you give to other organizations. I'm not saying to become narrow-minded, but this is about supporting each other, Sangat Ji. Let me tell you how Guru Ram Das Ji established Sri Amritsar Sahib. When we read our history, read Principal Satbir Singh, who was somebody, we could refer to him, he wasn't a poet, he was a historian. And what he would do, again, Principal Satbir Singh would wake up about 2 o'clock in the morning, he'd do his Nityanem, and Principal Satbir Singh wrote about 60 books. And you know when he would write? He'd write between about the hours of 4 a.m. and about 7 a.m. because then he'd go and lecture in the day. And he wrote a book dedicated to each Guru Sahib. And what he did was he collected all the Pratan Itihasik Granths, and he read all of them, and then he wrote his books based off them, but in a language that we could understand, not in a poetic way. He read Kavi Santokh Singh, he read Ratan Singh Pangu, he read Mehima Prakash, all these Granths, he read them, and he wrote these books in the 60s, 70s. He died in the 90s, and he was sitting in the Sangat once. And in Nanak Inwas, where Sant Baba Jarnail Singh Ji would do speeches, and Principal Satbir was sitting there. And he was one of these proper principal, his daddy was tied and Siddhi pug, and he was sat there with his, suit, pant on. And Sant Ji looked at him, kende ina di deen bahut vaddi a Panth nu. They said, what he's given to the Panth is so great and immense. They said, we can never repay him. And they were pointing at Principal Satbir Singh. Principal Satbir Singh writes, he goes, when Guru Amar Das Ji sent Guru Ram Das Ji Sache Paatshah to establish Sri Amritsar Sahib, Guru Amar Das Ji Paatshah Ji founded that place, that jagah. And Guru Ram Das Ji said, we're going to establish a city here. And what they did was, all the Gursikhs put their daswand together, and they called one Gursikh that was living in poverty, Kende Ala Gursikha. They gave him all that daswand, all the offerings they gave to that Gursikh, pehli dukaan tu kholni hai. They said, you're going to open the first shop in Amritsar. Guru Ram Das Ji said, from the Gursikhs, the Swand, from their 10%. They said, so he had his first shop, Rashan di Dukaan Sigi, where he sold wheat. They told him exactly, you're going to go to these places, these cities, and you're going to bring it back and you're going to sell that. He said, what would we say? No, Maharaj, I can't take that. I'm not worthy. No. I can't take from the Sikhs, I can't take from the Sangat, I'm not good enough. Main par kitho chakunga, how am I going to lift all of this weight? You know, I can't take this is the Sangat's money. And he probably did a bit of that as well. You know, I'm sure he had a violin as well. Maharaj kende Sikha, this is the way of the Khalsa, this is the way of the Sikhs. Here's the Taswan. Here's the shop. And they said, Maharaj, what do I have to do in return? Maharaj says, you now put your profit, 10% of your profit, this year you're going to give back to the Khalsa, back to the Sikhs. And then Maharaji set up another Gursikh, another Gursikh, another Gursikh. And they established the city of Amritsar. This is how our Gurus worked. We strengthened and we helped each other. This is what Guru Gobind Singh Ji is saying. Sev kari inhi ko pavat. And today we should be doing that as well. If we know there's a Gursikh in the Sangat somewhere, they might have a passion. They might want to go into some form of field. Let's talk about my old field. They might want to go into becoming a gas engineer, but they haven't got enough money for the course. And how do we do it? The Gursikhs say, we got you covered, bro. Here's our Daswand. It's going to pay for your course. You go and become a gas engineer. You're struggling to get your tools. Here's the Daswand for your tools. Just put your Daswand back to set up the next Gursikh. Yeah? Thank you, Virji. Khave kharche, ral mil bhai, tot na aave, vad do chai. Sangat ji, khave, kharcha. Guru Sahib said, eat yourself, but remember to share it. Because when you share, something magical will happen. Khave, kharcha, we think we're going to end up with less. Guru Sahib said, oh, you're so wrong. Khave, kharcha, ral, mil, bhai, tot na aave, the magic will happen. It's not going to come to a shortfall, it's going to increase. Sangat ji, we've already got so many now Sikh organizations. We've got Everything's 13. We've got Khalsa Aid. We've got Share Charity. We've got all of these other organizations. What do we need to do? We need to look at their strengths, and then we look at how we're going to use their strengths, and we're going to say, oh, actually, we're lacking this. We need this resource. Oh, this is something that Basics of Sikhi could do. I was speaking to a school the other day, and the school said we're teaching GCSE, Sikhi at GCSE level, but we haven't got enough resources. They said, can you make us some bite-sized, very specific videos? We're ready. That's what Basics does. Somebody else doesn't need to start doing that. But sometimes Basics might need some help in some form of way. That might be financially, might be equipment. So then the other organizations come together and say, oh, we'll help you there. And Everything's 13 saves, and Jagraj used to do this. From whatever would come, I remember every year he would then give to another Sikh organization. He'd then invite, back then I remember the first year, Sikh Khalsa Aid, and it'd say, here's Everything's 13, this one, the two CK, to Khalsa Aid. So this is how we established the Panth. Dharmveer spoke about Parcharaks. Sangat ji, let me tell you what's happening out there. I spoke to a Sikh Bibi who is the niece of a Shaheed Singh. The niece of a Shaheed Singh. And Sangat ji, I'll say very openly, because she's already given me permission that we're going to speak about this very soon, so I'll speak about it openly. The niece of Surinder Singh Sodhi, who was the right-hand man of Sant Jarnail Singh Ji, who was Sant Ji's right hand of launching rockets and everything, but the government knew they were going to attack Sri Darbar Sahib. They got rid of him about 2 weeks before. Set him up. Because she is she's not Amritari, but in her own way she's got pyar for Sikhi. In whichever way, this is what we spoke about. Dharmveer said Jagraj Singh didn't judge his wife. Because he didn't judge her, oh, why is your hair like that? Why is your case cut? Why do you look like that? Why have you got a tattoo? Why is your hair red? And Sangat, these are the type of Sikhs that we meet as well nowadays. But Jagraj Singh didn't do that. Why are you eating this? Why aren't you eating that? It wasn't any of that. And Sangat, because she's some form of influence to the local community, and she does Simran with some of them, and these are non-Sikhs, by a local church offered her, initially gave her an offer in writing of $250,000 to become a Christian preacher. And she was struggling financially. And we're saying that you should just do this outside of your work and struggle. Sangatji, we're so far behind. So far behind. The stories, I can't tell you on this stage what's happening, even in prisons, and what's happening with the Muslim community that's even affecting Sikhs. I can't go into it now because it's not something to speak about on camera. But let me tell you, we've got a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do. Yeah? We need to establish structures where we are representing at the highest levels. If Gursikhs educations need to be paid where they go to the best and top universities, and they know that they've got those skills of debating and everything else and representing at the highest of levels, because other faiths are. And they don't know who to call when it comes to calling a Sikh. They don't even know who to call. We need representatives. We need to establish structures where our Parcharaks are well paid and don't have to go to sleep thinking, where am I going to pay my mortgage from because I want to serve this Panth. Because that's not what Guru Gobind Singh Ji said. That's not how Guru Ram Das Ji established Amritsar. So, Sangat Ji, like I said, I didn't really come with a plan in mind what I'm going to talk about, but just putting it all together, set it off with Dharmveer spoke about what he spoke about. Again, my Veer Dharmveer Singh does a lot of work in the Scottish schools of going and talking about Sikhi in primary schools and secondary schools too. In Scotland, I don't know how to say Scotland in the Scottish accent. Preacher, you can help me out? How do you say? Scotland. Not bad. Right? Preacher is born and bred in Scotland as well. And Veerji has to try and fit that in whilst he does full-time work. And Dharmveer is another Gursikh that Jagraj Singh wanted as a Parcharak. But we need to find ways of how are we going to make this happen. He has to try and, work it out with work, take some time off or work it out with him and then go and do these talks. Now Veerji's making videos as well on TikTok, right? And bringing in that humor. Veerji in Scotland, Edinburgh, works, government job, goes to work in Bana, in a Gursikh Bana every day, with his shastar on the outside and a chola. Right, so these are the Gursikhs that we need to support, Sangaji, to do this work that Guru Gobind Singh Ji is saying to support the Khalsa. It's easy, you're going to sing it, Raj Karega Khalsa. We're all going to sing it. Let's create it. इन्हीं की कृपा के सजे हम हैं, नहीं मोसो गरीब करोड़ परे. Guru Gobind Singh Ji said, I am who I am. I am established because of you. I am only Guru Gobind Singh because I have you. Sangat Ji, let's sing these words and celebrate the life of these Gursikhs. Bhai Taru Singh sacrificed his life. He would eat less prashada, didn't have the warmest of clothes to wear because he went and gave them to the Khalsa. Let's sing the Shabad Jodi se Gursikhda tis niv niv lagon pae jio aakhan birtha ji ki gursajjan de hai malai. You know what this is saying? When you meet such Gursikhs, go and spill your heart out to them. Aakhan, speak to them. Birtha, Sangat Ji, I want to say this again. I say this in a lot of du'as because I still get it. I had a dear sister of mine that I was speaking to this week. It broke my heart to hear this. And it touched my heart as well. And she said she's not really been into Sangat before. One of these du'ans was the first time she came into Sangat. She's only watched Sangat on a screen. And she said she hasn't got a Sikhi roop. She hasn't got the form of a Sikh. Outwardly, the roop. She said, so I was sat in Sangat. And I thought that today, sitting here, and so beautifully and innocently, she referred to Guru Granth Sahib Ji as Babaji. She said, and I thought that Babaji probably hasn't seen me today because all these other great Gursikhs are here today. She goes, Babaji's probably not even seen me today. And Sangat Ji, and it touched my heart. And I said to my dear sister, I said, I promise you, we cannot be the judge of who is close or who is far. Don't ever think in your mind that anybody's going to ever judge you sitting here. And don't ever think that Guru Granth Sahib Ji's glance isn't upon you. Mera Kalgitar ek Gursikh wal vekhda. Dekho pyareo, o mai tabo aayi sigi. Guru Harai Paatshah Ji de darbar te. She came, mai tabo, to the court of Guru Harai Paatshah. She was stricken by poverty. She was old. She was crippled. She couldn't walk. Her eyesight was failing her. She stood at the back of the court of Guru Harai Paatshah. And she said, there's kings falling at this Guru's feet. I can't even go forward and bow my head to him because I feel embarrassed because look at the state of me. I have this Missa Prashada to give to that Guru. I have this Prashada that is all hard and dry and there's kings falling at his feet. I can't even come forward. Guru Harai Paatshah Ji comes off their throne. They get onto their horse. They ride over to the back of the court to the darbar and they stand their horse and they look at this Mai, this Mata, Mai Tabo kahan lage Guru Harai Paatshah kehinde Maa kehinde to agge nahi auna mainu ta bhukh bahut lagi a nale prashada bana ke aayi nale aake agge aake dindi nahi pai. They said, Mother, I'm hungry. I'm waiting for your prashada that you've made with your hands. What are you doing standing here at the back? You've made me come forward now. Kehinde Maa main tere prashade di udeek kari janna. Sangat Ji, there's Gursikhs here today as well that are ready to embrace you, that are ready to share their love with you. You share your heart with them. Aakhan birtha ji ki. And what do you say to them? Gur sajjan deh malai ji, you unite me with my Guru. Let's sing it. Aao, sare, everybody's voice must be heard. Aao pyareo.
जो रते रंग गोविंद के हाँ तिन बलिहारे जाओ ਆਖਾ ਬਿਰਥਾ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਹਰ ਸੱਜਣ ਮੇਲੋ ਰਾਏ ਹਰ ਸੱਜਣ ਮੇਲੋ ਰਾਏ ਜੋ ਦੀਸੈ ਗੁਰ ਸਿਖੜਾ ਤਿਸ ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਗੋ ਪਾਏ ਜਿਉ ਤਿਸ ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਗੋ ਪਾਏ ਜਿਉ ਜੋ ਦੀਸੈ ਗੁਰ ਸਿਖੜਾ ਇਸ ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਗੋ ਪਾਏ ਜਿਉ ਇਸ ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਗੋ ਪਾਏ ਜਿਉ ਜੋ ਦੀਸੈ ਗੁਰ ਸਿਖੜਾ ਇਸ ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਗੋ ਪਾਏ ਜਿਉ 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 ਤਿਸ ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਗੋ ਪਾਏ ਜਿਉ ਤਿਸ ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਗੋ ਪਾਏ ਜਿਉ ਤਿਸ ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਗੋ ਪਾਏ ਜਿਉ ਜੋ ਦੀਸੈ ਗੁਰ ਸਿਖੜਾ ਇਸ ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਗੋ ਪਾਏ ਜਿਉ ਇਸ ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਗੋ ਪਾਏ ਜਿਉ ਜੋ ਦੀ ਤੋ ਸ਼ਰਨਾਏ ਜਿਓ
ਆਇਆ ਦੂਰੋਂ ਚੱਲ ਕੇ ਮੈਂ ਤੱਕੀ ਤੋਂ ਸ਼ਰਨਾਈਓ
ਹਾਂ ਆਇਆ ਦੂਰੋਂ ਚੱਲ ਕੇ ਮੈਂ ਤੱਕੀ ਤੋਂ ਸ਼ਰਨਾਏ ਜਿਓ ਹਾਂ ਦੂਰੋਂ ਚੱਲ ਕੇ ਮੈਂ ਤੱਕੀ ਤੋਂ ਸ਼ਰਨਾਏ ਜਿਓ ਮੈਂ ਆਸਾ ਰੱਖੀ ਚਿੱਤ ਮੈਂ ਮੇਰਾ ਸਭੋ ਦੁੱਖ ਗਵਾਏ ਜਿਓ
ਆਸਾ ਰੱਖੀ ਜਿੱਤ ਮੈਂ ਮੇਰਾ ਸਭੋ ਦੁੱਖ
ਦੁੱਖ ਗਵਾਏ ਜਿਓ ਮੇਰਾ ਸਭੋ ਦੁੱਖ ਗਵਾਏ ਜਿਓ ਮੇਰਾ ਸਭੋ ਦੁੱਖ ਗਵਾਏ ਜਿਓ ਜੋ ਦੀਸੈ ਗੁਰ ਸਿਖੜਾ ਇਸ ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਭੋ ਪਾਏ ਜਿਓ ਜੋ ਦੀਸੈ ਗੁਰ ਸਿਖੜਾ ਇਸ ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਭੋ ਪਾਏ ਜਿਓ ਇਸ ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਭੋ ਪਾਏ ਜਿਓ ਆਖਾਂ ਬਿਰਥਾ ਜੀ ਕੀ
ਆਖਾਂ ਬਿਰਥਾ ਜੀ ਕੀ
ਗੁਰ ਸੱਜਣ ਦੇ ਮਿਲਾਏ ਜਿਓ ਗੁਰ ਸੱਜਣ ਦੇ ਮਿਲਾਏ ਜਿਓ ਜੋ ਦੀਸੈ ਗੁਰ ਸਿਖੜਾ ਇਸ ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਖੋ ਪਾਏ ਜਿਓ ਜੋ ਦੀਸੈ ਗੁਰ ਸਿਖੜਾ ਇਸ ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਖੋ ਪਾਏ ਜਿਓ ਇਸ ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਖੋ ਪਾਏ ਜਿਓ ਇਸ ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਖੋ ਪਾਏ ਜਿਓ ਇੱਕ ਮਾਰਗ ਚੱਲੇ ਪਾਈੜੇ ਗੁਰ ਕਹੈ ਸੁਕਾਰ ਕਮਾਏ ਜਿਓ ਇੱਕ ਮਾਰਗ ਚੱਲੇ ਪਾਈੜੇ ਗੁਰ ਕਹੈ ਸੁਕਾਰ ਕਮਾਏ ਜਿਓ ਤਿਆਗੇ ਮਨ ਕੀ ਮਤੜੀ ਵਿਸਾਰੇ ਦੂਜਾ ਪਾਓ ਜਿਓ ਤਿਆਗੇ
ਮਨ ਕੀ ਮਤੜੀ
ਵਿਸਾਰੇ ਦੂਜਾ ਪਾਓ ਜਿਓ ਵਿਸਾਰੇ ਦੂਜਾ ਪਾਓ ਜਿਓ
ਸਾਰੇ ਦੂਜਾ ਪਾਓ ਜਿਓ
ਇਉ ਪਾਵੇ ਹਰ ਦਰ ਸਾਵੜਾ ਇਉ ਪਾਵੇ ਹਰ ਦਰ ਸਾਵੜਾ ਪਾਵੇ ਹਰ ਦਰ ਸਾਵੜਾ ਇਉ ਪਾਵੇ ਹਰ ਦਰ ਸਾਵੜਾ ਨੈ ਲੱਗੇ ਤੱਤੀ ਬਹੁ ਜਿਉ ਨੈ ਲੱਗੇ ਤੱਤੀ ਬਹੁ ਜਿਉ ਨੈ ਲੱਗੇ ਤੱਤੀ ਬਹੁ ਜਿਉ ਨੈ ਲੱਗੇ ਤੱਤੀ ਬਹੁ ਨੈ ਲੱਗੇ ਤੱਤੀ ਬਹੁ ਜਿਉ 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 ਆਪ ਬੋਲ ਨ ਜਾਣਦਾ ਆਪ ਬੋਲ ਨ
ਖਜ਼ਾਨਾ ਬਖਸ਼ਿਆ।
ਹਰ ਭਗਤ ਖਜ਼ਾਨਾ ਬਖਸ਼ਿਆ, ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਜੀ ਆਪ ਸਾਜਿਓ। ਹਰ ਭਗਤ ਖਜ਼ਾਨਾ ਬਖਸ਼ਿਆ, ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਜੀ ਆਪ ਸਾਜਿਓ। ਹਰ ਭਗਤ ਖਜ਼ਾਨਾ ਬਖਸ਼ਿਆ, ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਜੀ ਆਪ ਸਾਜਿਓ। ਮੈਂ ਬੋੜ ਨਾ ਤ੍ਰਿਸ਼ਨਾ ਭੁਖੜੀ, ਮੈਂ ਬੋੜ ਨਾ ਤ੍ਰਿਸ਼ਨਾ ਭੁਖੜੀ। ਹੋਂ ਰੱਜਾ ਤ੍ਰਿਪਤ ਅਗਾਏ ਜੀਓ, ਹੋਂ ਰੱਜਾ ਤ੍ਰਿਪਤ ਅਗਾਏ ਜੀਓ, ਹੋਂ ਰੱਜਾ ਤ੍ਰਿਪਤ ਅਗਾਏ ਜੀਓ, ਹੋਂ ਰੱਜਾ ਤ੍ਰਿਪਤ ਅਗਾਏ ਜੀਓ। ਜੋ ਗੁਰਤੀ ਸਹਿ ਸਿਖੜਾ, ਤਿਸ ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਗੋ ਪਾਏ ਜੀਓ। ਜੋ ਗੁਰਤੀ ਸਹਿ ਸਿਖੜਾ, ਤਿਸ ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਗੋ ਪਾਏ ਜੀਓ। ਤਿਸ ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਗੋ ਪਾਏ ਜੀਓ। ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਗੋ ਪਾਏ ਜੀਓ। ਤਿਸ ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਗੋ ਪਾਏ ਜੀਓ।
ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਗੋ ਪਾਏ ਜੀਓ।
ਤਿਸ ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਗੋ ਪਾਏ ਜੀਓ।
ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਗੋ ਪਾਏ ਜੀਓ।
ਜੋ ਦਿਸੈ ਗੁਰ ਸਿਖੜਾ, ਤਿਸ ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਗੋ ਪਾਏ ਜੀਓ। ਜੋ ਦਿਸੈ ਗੁਰ ਸਿਖੜਾ, ਤਿਸ ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਗੋ ਪਾਏ ਜੀਓ। ਤਿਸ ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਗੋ ਪਾਏ ਜੀਓ। ਤਿਸ ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਗੋ ਪਾਏ ਜੀਓ।
ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਗੋ ਪਾਏ ਜੀਓ। ਨਿਵ ਨਿਵ ਲਾਗੋ ਪਾਏ ਜੀਓ।
ਮੇਰੀ ਖੱਲੋਂ ਮੋਜੜੇ ਗੁਰ ਸਿੱਖ ਹਟਾਂਦੇ, ਮੇਰੀ ਖੱਲੋਂ ਮੋਜੜੇ
ਗੁਰ ਸਿੱਖ ਹਟਾਉਂਦੇ।
ਮੇਰੀ ਖੱਲੋਂ ਮੋਜੜੇ
ਗੁਰ ਸਿੱਖ ਹਟਾਉਂਦੇ। ਮੇਰੀ ਖੱਲੋਂ ਮੋਜੜੇ ਗੁਰ ਸਿੱਖ ਹਟਾਉਂਦੇ।
ਮਸਤਕ ਲੱਗੇ ਸਾਧ ਰਹਿਣ ਵੱਡ ਭਾਗ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ।
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 ਮੇਰੀ ਖੱਲੋਂ ਮੋਜੜੇ ਗੁਰ ਸਿੱਖ ਹਟਾਂਦੇ।
ਮੇਰੀ ਖੱਲੋਂ ਮੋਜੜੇ ਗੁਰ ਸਿੱਖ ਹਟਾਉਂਦੇ।
ਮਸਤਕ ਲੱਗੇ ਸਾਧ ਰਹਿਣ ਵੱਡ ਭਾਗ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ।
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 ਅੰਤਰਜਾਮੀ ਪੁਰਖ ਵਿਦਾਤੇ ਸਰਦਾ ਮਨ ਕੀ।
ਅੰਤਰਜਾਮੀ ਪੁਰਖ ਵਿਦਾਤੇ ਸਰਦਾ ਮਨ ਕੀ ਪੂਰੇ।
ਨਾਨਕ ਦਾਸ ਹੈ ਸੁਖ ਮੰਗੇ, ਮੋਕੋ ਕਰ ਸੰਤਨ ਕੀ ਤੂਰੇ। ਨਾਨਕ ਦਾਸ ਹੈ ਸੁਖ ਮੰਗੇ, ਮੋਕੋ ਕਰ
ਸੰਤਨ ਕੀ ਤੂਰੇ।
ਨਾਨਕ ਦਾਸ ਹੈ ਸੁਖ ਮੰਗੇ, ਮੋਕੋ ਕਰ ਸੰਤਨ ਕੀ ਤੂਰੇ।
ਨਾਨਕ ਦਾਸ ਹੈ ਸੁਖ ਮੰਗੋ ਕਰ ਸੰਤਨ ਕੀ ਤੂਰੇ।
ਮੋਕੋ ਕਰ ਸੰਤਨ ਕੀ ਤੂਰੇ। ਮੋਕੋ ਕਰ ਸੰਤਨ ਕੀ ਤੂਰੇ।
ਮੁਖ ਕਰ ਸੰਤਨ ਕੀ ਤੂਰੇ। ਮੁਖ ਕਰ ਸੰਤਨ ਕੀ ਤੂਰੇ।
ਕਰ ਸੰਤਨ ਕੀ ਤੂਰੇ। ਕਰ ਸੰਤਨ ਕੀ ਤੂਰੇ।
ਓ ਕਰ ਸੰਤਨ ਕੀ ਤੂਰੇ। ਕਰ
ਸੰਤਨ ਕੀ ਧੂੜੇ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਧੂੜ ਬਣਾ ਦੇ ਰੱਬਾ ਦੀ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਤੇਰਾ ਨਾਮ ਜਪਦੇ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਧੂੜ ਬਣਾ ਦੇ ਰੱਬਾ ਦੀ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਤੇਰਾ ਨਾਮ ਜਪਦੇ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਧੂੜ ਬਣਾ ਦੇ ਰੱਬਾ ਦੀ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਤੇਰਾ ਨਾਮ ਜਪਦੇ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਧੂੜ ਬਣਾ ਦੇ ਰੱਬਾ ਦੀ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਤੇਰਾ ਨਾਮ ਜਪਦੇ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਧੂੜ ਬਣਾ ਦੇ ਰੱਬਾ ਦੀ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਧੂੜ ਬਣਾ ਦੇ ਰੱਬਾ ਦੀ, ਜੀ ਬਣਾ ਦੇ ਰੱਬਾ ਦੀ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਤੇਰਾ ਨਾਮ ਜਪਦੇ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਧੂੜ ਬਣਾ ਦੇ ਰੱਬਾ ਦੀ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਤੇਰਾ ਨਾਮ ਜਪਦੇ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਧੂੜ ਬਣਾ ਦੇ ਰੱਬਾ ਦੀ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਤੇਰਾ ਨਾਮ ਜਪਦੇ, ਧੂੜ ਬਣਾ ਦੇ ਰੱਬਾ ਦੀ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਤੇਰਾ ਨਾਮ ਜਪਦੇ, ਧੂੜ ਬਣਾ ਦੇ ਰੱਬਾ, ਧੂੜ ਬਣਾ ਦੇ, 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 ਧੂੜ ਬਣਾ ਦੇ ਰੱਬਾ ਦੀ, ਜੀ ਰੱਬਾ ਦੀ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਤੇਰਾ ਨਾਮ ਜਪਦੇ, ਧੂੜ ਬਣਾ ਦੇ ਰੱਬਾ ਦੀ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਤੇਰਾ ਨਾਮ ਜਪਦੇ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਧੂੜ ਬਣਾ ਦੇ ਰੱਬਾ ਦੀ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਤੇਰਾ ਜਪਦੇ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਧੂੜ ਬਣਾ ਦੇ ਰੱਬਾ ਦੀ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਤੇਰਾ ਨਾਮ ਜਪਦੇ, ਜਿਨੀ ਨਾਮ ਤੇ ਆਇਆ ਕੇ ਮਸਾ ਸਤਕਾਰ, ਜਿਨੀ ਨਾਮ ਤੇ ਆਇਆ ਕੇ ਮਸਾ ਸਤਕਾਰ, ਨਾਨਕ ਤੇ ਮੁਖ ਉਜਲੇ, ਨਾਨਕ ਤੇ ਮੁਖ ਉਜਲੇ, ਨਾਨਕ ਤੇ ਮੁਖ ਉਜਲੇ, ਨਾਨਕ ਤੇ ਮੁਖ ਉਜਲੇ, ਕੇਤੀ ਛੁੱਟੀ ਨਾਲ, ਕੇਤੀ ਛੁੱਟੀ ਨਾਲ, ਓ ਕੇਤੀ ਛੁੱਟੀ ਨਾਲ, ਕੇਤੀ ਛੁੱਟੀ ਨਾਲ, ਨਾਨਕ ਤੇ ਮੁਖ ਉਜਲੇ, ਨਾਨਕ ਤੇ ਮੁਖ ਉਜਲੇ, ਓ ਨਾਨਕ ਤੇ ਮੁਖ ਉਜਲੇ, ਨਾਨਕ ਤੇ ਮੁਖ ਉਜਲੇ, ਕੇਤੀ ਛੁੱਟੀ ਨਾਲ, ਕੇਤੀ ਛੁੱਟੀ ਨਾਲ, ਕੇਤੀ ਛੁੱਟੀ ਨਾਲ, ਕੇਤੀ ਛੁੱਟੀ ਨਾਲ, ਜਿਨੀ ਨਾਮ ਤੇ ਆਇਆ ਗਏ ਮਸਾ ਸਤਕਾਰ, ਨਾਨਕ ਤੇ ਮੁਖ ਉਜਲੇ, ਕੇਤੀ ਛੁੱਟੀ ਨਾਲ, ਜਿਨੀ ਨਾਮ ਤੇ ਆਇਆ ਗਏ ਮਸਾ ਸਤਕਾਰ, ਨਾਨਕ ਤੇ ਮੁਖ ਉਜਲੇ, ਕੇਤੀ ਛੁੱਟੀ ਨਾਲ, ਜਿਨੀ ਨਾਮ ਤੇ ਆਇਆ ਗਏ ਮਸਾ ਸਤਕਾਰ, ਨਾਨਕ ਤੇ ਮੁਖ ਉਜਲੇ, ਕੇਤੀ ਛੁੱਟੀ ਨਾਲ, ਰਤੇ ਇਸ਼ਕ ਖੁਦਾ ਰੰਗ ਦਿਦਾਰ ਕੇ, ਰਤੇ ਇਸ਼ਕ ਖੁਦਾ ਰੰਗ ਦਿਦਾਰ ਕੇ, ਵਿਸਰਿਆ ਜਿਨ ਨਾਮ ਤੇ ਭੋਏ ਪਾਰਥੀਏ, ਵਿਸਰਿਆ ਜਿਨ ਨਾਮ ਤੇ ਭੋਏ ਪਾਰਥੀਏ, ਦਿਲੋਂ ਮੁਹੱਬਤ ਜਿਨਾ, 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 ਸਹੀ ਸੱਚਿਆ, ਦਿਲੋਂ ਮੁਹੱਬਤ ਜਿਨਾ, ਸਹੀ ਸੱਚਿਆ, ਸਹੀ ਸੱਚਿਆ, ਸਹੀ ਸੱਚਿਆ, ਸਹੀ ਸੱਚਿਆ, ਸਹੀ ਜਿਨਾ ਪਛਾਤਾ ਸਤ, ਜਿਨਾ ਪਛਾਤਾ ਸਤ, ਜਿਨਾ ਪਛਾਤਾ ਸਤ, ਜਿਨਾ ਪਛਾਤਾ ਸਤ। ਚੁੰਮਾ ਪੈਰ ਨੂੰ, ਓ ਚੁੰਮਾ ਪੈਰ ਨੂੰ, 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 ਚੁੰਮਾ ਪੈਰ ਨੂੰ। ਤੇਰੀ ਪਨਹ ਖੁਦਾਏ, ਤੇਰੀ ਪਨਹ ਖੁਦਾਏ, ਤੇਰੀ ਪਨਹ ਖੁਦਾਏ, ਤੇਰੀ ਪਨਹ ਖੁਦਾਏ। ਤੂੰ ਬਖਸ਼ ਜਾਨਗੀ, ਤੂੰ ਬਖਸ਼ ਜਾਨਗੀ, ਤੂੰ ਬਖਸ਼ ਜਾਨਗੀ, ਤੂੰ ਬਖਸ਼ ਜਾਨਗੀ। ਸ਼ੇਖ ਫਰੀਦ ਖੈਰ, ਸ਼ੇਖ ਫਰੀਦ ਖੈਰ, ਸ਼ੇਖ ਫਰੀਦ ਖੈਰ, ਸ਼ੇਖ ਫਰੀਦ ਖੈਰ। ਦੀਜੈ ਬੰਦਗੀ, ਦੀਜੈ ਬੰਦਗੀ, ਦੀਜੈ ਬੰਦਗੀ, ਦੀਜੈ ਬੰਦਗੀ, ਦੀਜੈ ਬੰਦਗੀ, ਦੀਜੈ ਬੰਦਗੀ। ਰਤੇ ਇਸ਼ਕ ਖੁਦਾਏ ਰੰਗ ਦੀਦਾਰ ਕੇ, ਰਤੇ ਇਸ਼ਕ ਖੁਦਾਏ ਰੰਗ ਦੀਦਾਰ ਕੇ, ਰੰਗ ਦੀਦਾਰ ਕੇ, ਰੰਗ ਦੀਦਾਰ ਕੇ, ਰੰਗ ਦੀਦਾਰ ਕੇ। इश्क खुदाए रंग दीदार के,
रते इश्क खुदाए रंग दीदार के,
रंग दीदार के, रंग दीदार के, रंग दीदार के, रंग दीदार के। राम कली महला तीजा। आनंद को ओंकार सतगुर प्रसाद। आनंद पया मेरी माए सतगुरु मैं पाया। सतगुर ता पाया सहज सेती मन बलिया वाधाइया। रात रतन परवार परिया शब्द गावण आइया।
गावो हरि केरा मन जीवन आया।
कह नानक आनंद हुआ सतगुरु मैं पाया। ए मन मेरे
तू सदा रहो हर नाले।
हर नाल रहो तू मन मेरे दुख सब विसारना।
अंगीकारो करे तेरा कारज सब सवारना।
अपना गला समरथ स्वामी सो क्यों मनो विसारे। कहे नानक मन में
सदा रहो हर नाले।
साचे साहेबा क्या नहीं घर तेरे। तरता तेरे सब कुछ है जिस दे सो पावे। सदा सिफत सलाह तेरी नाम मन विसारे।
नाम जिनके मन वसिया वाके शब्द कलेरे।
कहे नानक सच्चे साहिब क्या नहीं घर तेरे। सदा नाम मेरा आधार ਸਾਚ ਨਾਮ ਆਧਾਰ ਮੇਰਾ ਦਿਨ ਭੁੱਖਾਂ ਸਭ ਗਵਾਈਆਂ ਦਰਸਾਨ ਦੁਖ ਮਨ ਆਏ ਵਸਿਆ ਜਿਨ ਇੱਛਾ ਸਭ ਪੁਜਾਈਆਂ ਸਦਾ ਕੁਰਬਾਨ ਕੀਤਾ ਗੁਰੂ ਵਿਟੋ ਜਿਸ ਦੀਆਂ ਏ ਵਡਿਆਈਆਂ ਕਹਿ ਨਾਨਕ ਗੁਣੋ ਸੰਤੋ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਕਰੋ ਪਿਆਰੋ ਸਾਚਾ ਨਾਮ ਮੇਰਾ ਆਧਾਰੋ ਵਾਜੇ ਪੰਜ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਸਿਧ ਕਰ ਸਭਾਗੇ ਕਰ ਸਭਾਗੇ ਸਬਦ ਵਾਜੇ ਗੜਾ ਜਿਤ ਵਰਤਾਰੀਆਂ ਪੰਜ ਦੂਤ ਤੁਧ ਵਾਸ ਕੀਤੇ ਬਾਦ ਕੰਟਕ ਮਾਰ ਕੋਲ ਕਰਮ ਪਾਇਆ ਤੁਧ ਜਨ ਕੋ ਸੇ ਨਾਮ ਹਰ ਕੇ ਲਾਗੇ ਕਹਿ ਨਾਨਕ ਤੈ ਸੁਖੋ ਆਦਿਤ ਕਰਿਆ ਅਨੰਦ ਸੁਣੋ ਵਡ ਭਾਗਿਓ ਸਗਲ ਮਨੋਰਥ ਪੂਰੇ ਬਾਰ ਬ੍ਰਹਮ ਪ੍ਰਭਾਇਆ ਉਤਰੇ ਸਗਲ ਪੂਰੇ ਦੁਖ ਰੋਗ ਸੰਤਾਪ ਉਤਰੇ ਸੁਣੀ ਸੱਚੀ ਬਾਣੀ ਸੰਤ ਸਾਜਨ ਪਏ ਸੱਚੇ ਪੂਰੇ ਗੁਰ ਤੇ ਜਾਣੀ ਸੰਤੇ ਪੁਨੀ ਤੈਸੇ ਪਵਿੱਤ ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਰਹਿਆ ਪਰਪੂਰੇ ਬਿਨਾ ਗਿਆਨ ਗੁਰ ਚਰਨ ਲਾਗੇ ਬਾਜੇ ਅਨਹਦ ਸਲੋਕ ਪਵਨ ਗੁਰੂ ਬਾਣੀ ਪਿਤਾ ਮਾਤਾ ਧਰਤ ਮਹਤ ਦਾਇਆ ਖੇਲੇ ਸਗਲ ਕਰ ਸੰਗਿਆਈਆਂ ਮੁਰਿਆਈਆਂ ਵਾਜੇ ਕਰਮ ਸੂਰ ਆਪੋ ਆਪਣੀ ਕੇ ਨੇੜੇ ਕੇ ਦੂਰ ਜਿਨੀ ਨਾਮ ਤੇ ਆਇਆ ਕੇ ਮਸਕਤ ਧਾਰੋ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇ ਮੁਖ ਉਜਲੇ ਤੇਰੀ ਝੂਠੀ ਨਾਮ ਜਿਨੀ ਨਾਮ ਤੇ ਆਇਆ ਕੇ ਮਸਕਤ ਧਾਰੋ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇ ਮੁਖ ਉਜਲੇ ਤੇਰੀ ਝੂਠੀ ਨਾਮ ਮੁਖ ਉਜਲੇ 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 ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇ ਮੁਖ ਉਜਲੇ ਕੇਤੀ ਝੂਠੀ ਨਾਮ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇ ਮੁਖ ਉਜਲੇ ਕੇਤੀ ਝੂਠੀ ਨਾਮ ਜਿਨੀ ਨਾਮ ਧਿਆਇਆ ਦੇਵ ਸੰਕਟ ਕਾਲ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇ ਮੁਖ ਉਜਲੇ ਕੇਤੀ ਝੂਠੀ ਨਾਮ ਬੋਲੋ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ 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 ਫਤਿਹ
ਸੱਚੇ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਜੀ ਨੂੰ ਪਾ ਜਾਵੇ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਸ੍ਰੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀਓ ਸੋਹੀ ਮਹੱਲਾ ਪਹਿਲਾ ਜਿਨ ਕੋ ਭਾਂਡੇ ਭਾਓ ਤਿਨਾ ਸਵਾਰਸੀ ਸੁਖੀ ਕਰੇ ਪਸਾਓ ਦੁਖ ਵਿਸਾਰਸੀ ਜਿਨ ਕੋ ਭਾਂਡਾ ਭਾਓ ਤਿਨਾ ਸਵਾਰਸੀ ਸੁਖੀ ਕਰੇ ਪਸਾਓ ਦੁਖ ਵਿਸਾਰਸੀ। There's times we might have doubts in our mind. Does my Guru actually listen to me? Can I speak to Guru Granth Sahib Ji? Sangat Ji, I expressed with all of you as we began the vichar today, I didn't come with a set specific something to speak about. I had a few ideas in my mind. I didn't know I was going to have that conversation with that Mata Ji yesterday. And Sangat Ji, something I definitely didn't know until I was sat here in the Kirtan that I was going to share what Jagraj Singh said to me on the phone that day. But if you remember back to that vichar about an hour and a half ago, the pankti that we did bring forward and contemplated was that Jinko Pandhe Pao Tina Savarsi. These were the very words that we spoke about when we first started the Katha today. Do you know that Maharaji's also said to us that Jinke Pandhe Pao Tina Savarsi? And these are the exact words Guru Sahib Ji have just now given us. Guru Sahib Ji has said to us that I'm sitting here, I'm listening to you. That Jagraj Singh, his heart definitely, without a doubt, was filled with love. And he's a Gursikh that is sitting in my feet. Jinko Pande Pao, those that have got love in their hearts. Tina Savarsi, the word Savarsi can be translated to beautiful. Guru Sahib Ji saying those are the ones that are beautiful, that have love in their hearts. Sukhi kare pasao. Sukhi kare pasao. Sukhi means sukh, that true eternal happiness. Kare pasao. Pasao Sangat Ji means blessing. And it's the blessing of what that gives us sukh. It's the blessing of love that gives us sukh. It's so simple if you think about it, isn't it? You can't have both things at the same time in your heart. You can't have bitterness and hatred and love at the same time. But bitterness and hatred will give us dukh, will give us pain and suffering. But love will make us beautiful, and it will make us sukhi, and it will make us happy. Right? Try not to focus on the translations on the screen too much. It'll probably throw you off because we're not going by those translations. Sukhi kare pasao, dukh visarsi. It'll take away our suffering, because when there is love, there is no suffering. Sehsa mule nahe. Don't have any doubt in your mind that this will save you. And Sangat Ji, you know, every time Guru Sahib Ji does this, it blows my mind. And even though we say Guru Sahib's listening, Guru Sahib's here, but every time they do it, that the awe is as much as the last time. And it's as much as like, wow, you did it again. And I'll be honest with you, I'll tell you why the awe is so deep. Because this mind doubts. And it says, was you listening to me? And even today, whilst I was doing the katha, I was thinking, Guru Sahib, will you say something direct to us today? And Guru Sahib just saying, just you shut up and let me get on with it. Yeah? That's how amazing our Guru is. So Sangat Ji, I'm not going to translate the rest of the Hukamnama. You guys can look it up at home. Let's do Samapti now. One beinti is definitely to everyone that we do these du'ans every month. So Scotland Sangat, you're welcome every month. It's only a 6 hours drive, you know. But no, Sangat Ji, I'm sure the Scotland Sangat has experienced the love that is sat in this Sangat. And literally, Sangat Ji, I can come here with, you know, when my body is in discomfort and unease and it's in pain, something's going on. Literally, you can feel like that your barb are being washed away when you're sat here singing. Like you can actually feel it, that my sins are being washed. That something right is happening here. And that's the power of sitting in Sangat and singing together with love. Dharmveer Singh, beinti, you know, I'm going to do a jakara because we all want you to become a Parcharak, and the start of that is to do Seva of Maharaj right now. Let's do a Jakara for Dharmveer Singh to become a full-time Parcharak very soon. Bole Sonihal!
If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, share and subscribe. Please donate and help spread Guruji's message. Link is in the description below. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh.